She has just been a leader. Oops. Hope we're all okay there in the front. Good. Glad nothing bad happened there. But let me just invite Rosa DeLauro to come share some thoughts with us. Please give a hand to Rosa DeLauro. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all very, very much. Wow, what a crowd here. It must be because it's air conditioned here and no one wants to be outside here. It's a delight to see you all. And Steve, thank you. It's great to be with all of you. And I want to say a thank you to the Atlantic and to the New America Foundation for inviting me to come here today. And in the past decade, I will tell you that I have come to rely on the experts at the New America Foundation for unique, valuable insights into the issues that are before us. So I thank them very, very much for being here and for helping us to fight the good fight. I particularly want to say a thank you to someone who's very dear to me, and that's Bernard Schwartz. You have played such an unbelievable role, a leadership role at New America. You've provided invaluable counsel to me in creating a national infrastructure bank over the years. I rely on your advice and I rely on your counsel. And Bernard has gone above and beyond the call of service to this nation and its fellow citizens. So we are, as Senator Kerry has pointed out, grateful to him for putting his time, his commitment, and resources into something that is so critical to our future. I also want to say thank you to my colleagues, the Senators Kerry and Warner and Hutchinson, who have taken up the standard of the infrastructure bank on the Senate side, and thank them for their leadership. To the members of the panel today, I must tell you that I was making my way from Connecticut, leaving my house at 4:30 this morning to get to New York, to get here, to be able to do it. So sorry I didn't hear the opening salvo. A national infrastructure bank for America is an idea that I have been fighting for over 15 years now. I introduced legislation in 1994. I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go. I feel that we are in need of seeing this concept become a reality now more than ever. There are many reasons for this. Perhaps most importantly, we are now desperately in need to boost long-term job creation, economic growth, and the bank would provide that kind of growth. It can be the engine for economic growth in this country. And I'd like to quote to you Ambassador Felix Rohatyn, who was another great advocate of the infrastructure bank that I want to talk to you about today. And he correctly noted in his book, Bold Endeavors, and I quote, "American history shows that economic growth, the creation of wealth, employment, and opportunity are all built on the platform of investment, innovative public investment." And in my view, in our country today, that key platform for economic growth is in very dangerous disrepair. Just a couple of statistics for you. Texas Transportation Institute. Traffic congestion creates an $87.2 billion annual drain on our economy in lost productivity and wasted fuel. In Baltimore, 5,000 water pipe breaks occurred in the last 4 years. EPA, $183 billion is needed for the installation and maintenance of safe drinking water systems through 2022. $202 billion required for publicly owned wastewater systems related infrastructure needs through 2024. Electric utilities will need to invest an annual average of $28 billion for generation, $12 billion for transmission, $34 billion for distribution of electricity to keep pace with demand. The United States is 15th in the world access to broadband. That is the state of disrepair. Last week's job report signifies that we have to take stronger action to create jobs, to grow the economy. We only added 54,000 jobs last month, and unemployment hovers above 9%. We all agree that these numbers are usually disappointing, although opinions differ on the reasons behind them. Speaker Boehner attributes them to overtaxing, and I quote, overregulating and overspending. It will not surprise you that I do not agree. President Obama has suggested these numbers are a bump on the road on the way to recovery. And Austin Goolsbee, the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, has also tried to accentuate the positive, while notably calling for an infrastructure bank over the weekend. I believe that the economy is still deeply struggling, that we cannot explain the poor numbers on short-term shocks, like the Japan earthquake, higher gas prices, and the turmoil in North Africa and the Middle East alone. We are facing an ongoing jobs and economic crisis in America today, and we have to act accordingly. We need to put people back to work, rebuild our nation, and restore the conditions for long-term prosperity. At this point, this is an even bigger issue than just stimulus or recovery. This is about whether or not America can grow, whether we can create jobs and compete with other economic power centers in the world. This is about the prospect of America continuing to produce middle-class jobs and middle-class incomes. Unfortunately, the House majority, despite their rhetoric last year, has chosen not to focus on job creation, economic growth, or American competitiveness at all. Instead, they want to slash a social safety net, repeal health care reform, neither of which will create jobs, much less restore the foundations of our national prosperity. That agenda is not going to get it done. We need to respond to this job crisis with a more forward-looking and comprehensive vision. And to me, that means investing in our infrastructure. In the 19th and the 20th centuries, infrastructure investments such as canals, railroads, public highway systems allowed our economy to grow, particularly in the manufacturing sector. We must now do the same with the 21st century infrastructure like high-speed rail, ports, clean energy transmission, and broadband. In the long term, we must move from an unbalanced, service-oriented economy to building a 21st century manufacturing capability so that we can once again create good jobs, skilled jobs, well-paying jobs that cannot be outsourced. Put another way, we need to go back to being a nation that builds things again, rather than one that consumes things that are made overseas. Diving deeper into last month's job report, construction and manufacturing employment were essentially unchanged in May, while manufacturing has added 243,000 jobs since its low point in December 2009. Construction has changed little since early 2010, after falling sharply from 2007 to 2009. These are the jobs America needs to grow again. An infrastructure bank will make it happen. In fact, Dow Chemical CEO and President Andrew Liveris, in his book, Make It in America, argues that infrastructure investments are critical to creating a 21st century manufacturing sector. One, it creates a market for manufacturing products that are part of the infrastructure system. Two, it can allow us to operate more efficiently and cost effectively. And three, it can help our products reach deeper into emerging markets for less. That is why Liveris advocates for a national infrastructure bank, pointing to the success of the European Investment Bank. He sees it as vital not only to founding significant projects across America, but to the success of manufacturing and business in general. That is why the concept now enjoys support from across the spectrum, from the Chamber of Commerce to the labor community. Not normally happy bedfellows, because they understand that it will create jobs, it will promote business and manufacturing, and is desperately needed. According to a recent report from the Urban Land Institute, we have fallen behind 3 emerging economic competitors, Brazil, China, India, in terms of infrastructure investment. China has a plan to spend $1 trillion on high-speed rail, highways, and other infrastructure in 5 years. India is nearing the end of a $500 billion investment phase that has seen major highway improvements and plans to double that amount by 2017. And Brazil plans to spend $900 billion on energy and transportation by 2014. The report concludes by reminding us of a grim fact that we have been hesitant to acknowledge. We need to invest $2 trillion just to get our roads, bridges, water lines, sewage systems, and dams in fair condition again. These investments may be necessary, but as you know, and as Senator Kerry pointed out, there is no appetite anywhere near this level in this institution at the moment. We are focused single-mindedly on reducing the deficit right now, to the detriment of investments that we need, the kinds of investments that we need to remain competitive with other economic power centers around the world. And even if that were not the case, we simply will not be able to muster the level of investment that is needed through current financing mechanisms at the local, state, or federal level. And so we need to come up with innovative solutions to address the investment shortfall and restore the conditions for long-term prosperity in America. And that includes leveraging the hundreds of billions of dollars in private capital out there that are available for public investment. And again, as Senator Kerry said, if we don't take advantage of it, that money isn't going to hang around doing nothing. That's why I have fought to create a national infrastructure bank that is modeled structurally after the European Investment Bank. Like the EIB, the bank would be governed by an independent and objective board of directors that could, among other things, make final infrastructure financing determinations, an executive committee to handle day-to-day operations of the bank, a risk management and audit committee to carefully manage risk and to monitor the bank's activities. As I am sure many of you know, the European Investment Bank has had a striking effect on Europe's infrastructure projects. Last year, its total lending was 72 billion euros, or $100 billion US dollars, of which approximately 88% went to projects within Europe. The bank, in my legislation, would issue federal bonds at a rate determined by the Treasury Secretary and presumably slightly above the going Treasury rate on the capital markets, to institutional investors such as pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, other foreign investors to invest in the bank and bank projects. Last year, the EIB raised around $95 billion on the global bond market in this way. This, I should say, is the key difference between my legislation and the one that is circulating in the Senate. The Senate's bank could not issue bonds, thus limiting its ability to attract institutional investment. Also, I think it's important to note that the White House has a proposal which is about $4 billion under the transportation bailiwick. Quite frankly, it's my view that the infrastructure project should not be just solely focused on transportation. It ought to be a diversity of infrastructure projects. But there are additional efforts that are floating around as well, including Senator Rockefeller. Senator Boxer does the surface transportation legislation. On the House side, Congressman Micah with the Transportation Committee. Neither of them have a bank concept and are likely to plus up the Build America bonds, or which has expired, as you know, or the TIFIA funds, which is the direction that they would like to go in. In either case, my proposed bank, like the European Bank, would consider applications for transportation, water, energy, and telecommunications projects. Last year, the EIB financed 460 large projects, including, for example, upgrades to a 57-kilometer section of the Turin to Milan motorway in Italy, water and wastewater projects in Yorkshire, and a high-speed optical fiber network in the Netherlands. Infrastructure projects, the bank would use a merit-based system to provide financing, loans, and loan guarantees to projects of regional and national significance with clear economic, environmental, and social benefits, as well as an identifiable and a reliable revenue stream to ensure the bank is self-sustaining and also has the capacity to pay back loans. It would encourage public-private partnerships in which a private entity partners with a region, state, or locality on a project, placing some of its own equity into it. We know that with concern over the budget deficit that blankets every single discussion that we have in Washington today. With such a large infrastructure investment deficit in this country and with a lack of enough federal programs and funding to meet the problem head on, the private and public sectors are going to need to come together in some fashion if we are going to rebuild America and to stay competitive in a global environment. I believe that the Infrastructure Bank will make that happen. The chapters of our American success story have always been written in stone and in mortar, in iron and in steel, and granite, and in fiber optic cable. It is time for us now to write in bold strokes the next chapter in infrastructure investment for our nation. In short, the bank is exactly the type of a bold, outside-of-the-box thinking that we need right now to create jobs, to rebuild America, to foster long-term economic growth, and to generate a recovery that will last for years, if not for decades, to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.